Okay, I'm here chatting with Lee DaCosta. DaCosta, spelt D-A-C-O-S-T-A. That's right.
That is right. That is right, Sean.
You are absolutely right to pull me up on that. No one should ever misspell somebody's name. You could change it to Day, D-A-Y. Nobody ever gets that wrong.
Lee Day.
Yeah.
Sounds like a delivery app.
I wouldn't like to think people thought we were married. No. And I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of your wife.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We'd be okay, but I don't think my wife would be great.
Okay, in all seriousness, Lee DaCosta, founder of Cabvision Network Limited, recently announced that he'd made the acquisition of Unify, the black cab app. And I've got to say, a lot of drivers were very surprised. He also plans to rebrand it to blackcab.com. So, Lee, you are a seasoned veteran in the cab game. So I thought it was only right and proper that I would come down and ask you some frank and honest questions. And I know you wouldn't have it any other way, would you?
No, look, I mean, as you said, it might have caught people by surprise, not yourself, because you know from our previous engagements that it's something that I've been interested in, and we've obviously attended a meeting, which we might get onto later, where obviously we discussed purchasing something out some time ago. It's nearly 4 years ago. That's how time flies. And we just, as we said in the press release, we weren't happy with the direction of travel. And really the only way for us to change the conversation and maybe be invited to some of these meetings with Transport for London was effectively to start our own app.
Now, before we get into it, I think most people would have heard of KPM. Mm-hmm. Most people would have heard of Cabvision, and I think nearly everybody has heard of Lee DaCosta. But for those who might have been living under a rock for about 30 years, maybe you could give us the tale of the tape and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, turned up 15 years ago, roughly, after leaving the city. Family, as you said, KPM, always been in the taxi trade. Whole family's in the taxi trade, really. I swore I'd never get involved. Was true to my word. Word for many years. And then eventually an opportunity arose at a time where the city for me was drawing to a close around the financial crisis. And we bought Cabvision. And, you know, we never bought Cabvision on the basis of it being a media platform. I'm not a media person. I'm a finance person. And we bought it with a view that we would convert it into a payment platform. And of course, that's what we have done. So everyone really knows us for payment. Yeah, I mean, we've got a substantial customer base. I think we're pretty good at the tech.
So that pretty much brings us up to date. But you have done a buyout. So maybe you could just recap with some of the context around that. Why Unify?
Well, look, Unify, just like previous to that when we looked at taxi app, I thought it was important to try and take someone out of the marketplace, a bit like a one out, one in. Clearly that there's a diluted offering. You know, people talk about the one app, and this is exactly what we need. We need all drivers on one app. And whether or not we get there or not, we don't know. But what we didn't want to do really was add another offering into an already diluted marketplace. Unify is a micro business. It does small amounts of business. However, the founder had set it up, in our view, with the right foundations, and the right foundations were to work within the regulated TfL structure.
Now, about 3 years ago, I think you said 2021, I brokered a meeting between you the UCG.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. Time only is meant to fly when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But I brokered this meeting between you, the UCG, and Taxi App. Mm-hmm. So some people might think this is an impulsive thing to do, but that's not the case, is it?
No, I mean, actually, I know there's a lot of sort of people who like to look at the data on Companies House and bits and pieces and sort of look at individuals and what they've done and, you know, have they got a potted history, blah, blah, blah. If someone was minded to go back an awful long way, they will actually see that I was a director of my taxi. My Taxi approached KPM through Mercedes-Benz. Obviously, it wasn't a KPM thing, but they wanted to launch an app in London. So I had agreed effectively that we, as in Cabvision at the time, would bring My Taxi to market. This was, I think, around 2012, maybe 2013, and they had a change of heart. So that was my first dalliance, didn't get off the ground. We then had the conversation, it was like a UTAG conversation as much as anything else, where we knew that there was going to be some impending changes at Taxi App. I very much felt at the time it needed rebranding, and we had a conversation which has remained private to this date, but we couldn't agree on a way forward. But that's another itch that's, you're constantly scratching. So soon after that, the conversations kept raising themselves internally. And so therefore we bought the brand names, the domain names blackcab.com and blackcab.co.uk. We then registered something called the virtual hand, which we'll get onto, a little bit down the line. But, we bought the domain names in 22, and we started to plan. However, when you're in the financial services side of things, there is a lot of regulation and things that go on in the background, and it just took up an awful lot of our time meeting latest standards, ensuring that our customers were being delivered efficiently, they're getting their money quickly, which is obviously an important factor, and not to do anything that was going to damage the Cabvision brand by diluting ourselves a little bit too thin.
But more broadly, why did you want to get into the work-focused app side of things?
Plainly, the direction of travel. You look at what the more established apps are doing, and they're taking driver outside of the regulation, and TfL are continuing to turn a blind eye to it, and it's the grey area, and this needs to be settled in court and whatever. But the more that it's going on, the more that it concerns me that taxis are being outpriced from the marketplace because of third parties. And eventually that will damage Cabvision, all the other payment processors, because if you've got a free market in what's meant to be a regulated marketplace, it's obviously going to damage the people that are working within the regulations.
There's a plethora of apps already out there, don't we know it? And people might just think, well, this is just another app. What will make Unify, ultimately to be blackcab.com, what will make it different from the other apps?
Look, the model is to leverage the Cabvision infrastructure. So we're not setting up with massive costs from the start. We need to make some changes to the Unify app, which is why we haven't gone straight in and said blackcab.com, this is the new app, because it's, the Unify offering is an okay offering. But it falls short, and that's not a slight on Mickey. Mickey has built something pretty incredible as a one-man band.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Really, really tough, and he's done all these roles himself, and it's turned into a bit of a 40 Towers, if that's not a slur.
No.
So Mickey's front desk, he's cleaning rooms, he's serving in the restaurant, and things slip through the gaps.
No, fair enough. I'm in a WhatsApp group, a Unify WhatsApp group,
right,
with supporters and a work focus group,
okay.
And that's the magnitudinal aspect to it is off the Richter scale, really, for one person to deal with.
Yeah, look, the guy's a working cab driver.
Yeah.
So not only, is he having to answer emails, questions, I've got a problem with the app, but he's also trying to make a living. And other people will say, the guy was far too ambitious and he should never have done it. But he had a dream. He was delivering on a promise, community promise he made with his wife, and he would do this. And I'm sure that Mickey recognised the fact that this was going to be incredibly difficult. Hence, when we started talking about potentially coming on board, Mickey's overriding requirement was effectively that we worked within the TfL fare structure and that we maintain the community that Unify had set itself up to do.
We will come on to the fare structure, but it's true to say, isn't it, that apps are very contentious. It's also true to say that black cab drivers are very contentious, including myself. I don't absolve myself from that equation. But if we could just put politics to the side for one moment, and we will have to talk about the politics. Cab drivers, basically, they get up, they go out, they want to earn a living, and they want to go home and feed their families. Bottom line, how will Unify help them make more money?
Look, we're committed to a commission-free model for drivers. There will be lots of scepticism around that, because it will be, they're business people, they need to make money, and quite rightly we do. However, as I said earlier, we're piggybacking onto like a pretty successful business in the industry. I mean, we've had our struggles like everyone else, and we've cut staff and we've cut premises, and we've cut our cloth accordingly. We're not immune to what's going on, in the business environment. However, what we want effectively is the drivers to have as much money in their pocket. And if that goes through a Cabvision payment system, great. If it doesn't really matter, because we have a lot of fleet customers. And the overriding thing for the fleet customer is to ensure that the person renting the vehicle from you has got the ability to pay the rent. So it should be very popular with the fleets, because if we're not charging the drivers, then they should have more money in their pocket. And it's plain and simple,
Just quickly, what made you want to rebrand it from Unify to blackcab.com?
Unify was very much an idea of Mickey and his wife. They wanted to unify the trade. And maybe with us taking it on, they got a step further. We've got our detractors, so that won't unify everyone, of course. But it's only really known in the taxi trade. And what are we? We are the black cab trade. And, I've had conversations with a number of people, and again, they find this a little bit contentious. I say as an industry, we've lost the word taxi, okay? Outside of London, what is a taxi?
I agree,
what is a taxi?
Totally agree.
Everyone comes in, I'm getting a taxi, I'm getting an Uber. How many times have you seen on Twitter someone trying to correct one of the broadsheets? You're using this, you're using that. The distinguishing factor of our industry now is that they go, oh, black cab, you mean?
Yeah.
So we just said, look, we'll put our name on the tin. And that's what we plan to do. It's like, I want to get a black cab. We should be first and foremost in people's minds. When you've got other apps outside of the taxi industry really becoming the byproduct of surface transport, we need every help that we can get.
No,
so
exactly.
Therefore we thought that, black cab was the way forward.
Yeah, I agree. Now on the thorny issue of politics, and it's a question I've levied at all the other app companies, so it's only right and fair that I present this question to you. And there's legitimacy in the question, because I think cab drivers feel as though they are never the bottom line. Everybody and everything else comes before them. They almost feel like they are commoditized in some way by the other apps. But the umbrella question to this is, how do you plan to protect taxi drivers? What safeguards are there? And there's subcategories to that as well, because you've got what provisions are in place to ensure that the app will remain exclusively taxis, and what provisions, if any, are in place to make sure that the driver data is protected in the event that you might sell the company.
It's a big question, and of course it's going to probably require me to make a long answer to this.
Yeah, I get
so
it's going to be long, folks. It is.
Yeah, you're going to have to edit this maybe. Yeah. But as you know from the meeting with Taxi App were thinking about doing a John Lewis type model. I didn't believe in that model. I believed in the security of the driver. What we needed is the buy-in of the driver, right? So every supplier is wholly dependent on the supply chain, right? So the drivers might well feel that they're bottom of the barrel, but actually they're the start of the chain, and the most important link in it. You could say they're the padlock, if you like, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't get something past the driver, no one else can can earn a living,
Yeah,
right? So if we can't create any business, how are we going to make any money from that? People who use their other apps, they use their other payment, that's entirely up to them. It's going to be an open market, free for all. What we were saying at the time is that we've set up Black Cab, and we've set up a company called, strangely enough, I was very shocked that we were able to register this, but we registered ourselves as Black Cab Limited.
Right.
It's not Black Cab Technology, whatever, Black Cab app, blah, blah, blah. It's just simply Black Cab Limited. Available, company's house, name change. Wow, like really, really clean. So I think we've kind of set our stall out of who we're going to work for. So brand spanking new company. And we are making a commitment in our articles to change that to say we will never apply for a private hire license unless it becomes a legal requirement. Obviously, we need a bit of headroom to say that all of a sudden, if we're doing bookings on the app, and at that point a taxi's acting as a private hire and whatever, we need to be able to be in the game. But should there not be a law change like that, then we are making a commitment not to apply for a private hire license. We're also making a commitment not to work with parties who work with private hire. So as an example, you would have Get, and then they've got One Transport. So we could never work with Get. That's not fitting our taxi only ethos. We're also talking about veto rights, so that if we did decide to sell the business, which is, I think, most of the drivers' main concerns, we build it up, you sell us out, you run off for the money.
And there's legitimacy in that, isn't there? Because Halo back in the day, stabbed drivers in the back, and those ardent supporters of Taxi App also feel that they were betrayed, don't they?
Yeah, look, I mean, I speak to drivers every single day. 3 days a week I'm in the Lucan Street office, 2 days a week I work in the development office. So I see customers. Some people I know well, others I don't. Some people have said to me, oh, you're wasting your time, you'll never make money at that. Others have turned around and said it's the best idea that we've heard for ages. The proof of the pudding is obviously in the delivery. And as you say, quite rightly, the drivers feel aggrieved that they've helped build businesses, and the businesses have pivoted on the model, and the drivers have left themselves with an exposure. But, once you've sold your customer, how do you get that person back? People want technology. What did Boris Johnson say? You can't uninvent the technology.
Right.
And I think that's where we are. We're talking about
quoting Boris Johnson.
I know, it's terrible. But it is true in what he said in that point. You can't uninvent it. And I think we were all at City Hall that time when it all sort of really escalated very quickly. When he made some sort of derogatory comments. So he wouldn't be my Churchill to go to and sort of quote. But he is right in this sense. You wouldn't want your partner, your kids or whatever on the street trying to get a cab in a lot of these areas now late at night when they can just wait wherever they are at their friend's party and whatever, use the app. The app says drivers outside, you go outside, you get in the vehicle. Single female at night. I know this is contentious because a lot of users of private hire apps are women, drunk women in a bit of a mess and whatever. But it still stands. It is a public safety issue sometimes being in parts of London when you'd rather have the app. And so that is not going to be uninvented. And people will come and go in this marketplace. There'll be consolidation. Obviously we've seen Lyft buy Free now. Before we saw the merger of...
But also we don't know. I don't think we're that great at foreseeing the future. And I think if you're not on the first rung of the technological ladder, then you won't be able to ascend to the second in some sense.
Look, as I said, I mean, for me, if we're all talking about self-interest here, right? So you've got a taxi driver. I don't want to sell myself out. I want to earn as much possible. What comes through the window, I want to keep as much as possible. That's fine. As a business, we don't want to spend fortunes for the benefits of others and then be playing catch up. I mean, we did do that with Cabvision in the early days prior to the mandate. A very, very difficult period for anyone involved at that time. But, what we have here is that we're 12 years into people using apps and using apps in a big way. So you've got some drivers that are huge advocates of it. But the reality is that, as I said, we are, if you like, safeguarding our own business. right? I'm not going to say protect because I don't think there's any protection in here. I mean, the people have got so much money and they can do what they want, and you know they're buying their way into the taxi trade. And you know, I've been using the Uber app for taxis to be doing some research, and it's not difficult to get a taxi on the Uber app.
No.
As surprised as some people may be about that, you know, that kind of shocked me a bit. I actually recognised a few drivers who picked me up,
Okay.
which shocked me again. But the service was delivered very well. I paid through the app, paid the meter
But also
fare.
you have newer drivers come through, don't you, that don't have the same hostility or animosity towards Uber that we did back in the day.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's definitely true in the new drivers that are all passing out. A vast percentage of them would have come from private hire. That might not have been the same back in the day where a lot of the working classes come from different trades.
Yeah.
But, you know, it has been almost like a progression that people have come through private hire. They might still have family at private hire. So where we only talk about taxis, and I'll say, you know, my dad's 50 years at KPM, my granddad was a taxi driver, you know, my sister's in the business, my son's in the business, blah, blah, blah. These guys are saying, my brother's a minicab driver, right. My cousin's a minicab driver. So as you say, they don't have that same level of hostility, and also they don't have that same level of understanding that if your costs are here, you can't sell your fares here. And that is really the overriding factor here. I mean, you know, we're trying to safeguard the meter. And everyone else is selling that meter out. And if you sell the meter out and it doesn't have value, you know, it's the beginning of the end, really.
Okay, we will come on to the fare structure, but some would say the elephant in the room is Taxi World. Now, Taxi World recently launched Jump. It seems to have quite a lot of support out there. Well, they are unique in the sense that they've integrated it into their payment and meter system. What made you decide not to go down that route and opt for a standalone app?
Again, this is multifaceted. I mean, people like to pitch Cabvision, Taxi World, Ascot's E1.
Yeah.
Get free now, whatever.
Well, I think all the squabbling tends to be amongst cab drivers.
Yeah, look, I mean,
for the most part,
the guys at Taxi World I know very well. You know, we have a business relationship with Taxi World. So as much as you've got advocates on Twitter, you know, saying cut me and I'm a Cabvision man, or cut me, I'm with Taxi World and whatever, Cabvision and Taxi World are pretty friendly. You know, without colluding in that sense. So it's not any real surprise that our modelling is somewhat similar to theirs, because we've discussed this 100 times over, what is going on in the marketplace and the regulated fare, and you know, the diminishing of the regulated fare, and what effect that will have on our business at some point. And you know, Taxi World have gone out with a model that effectively is an integrated model. You know, they sell it as an integrated system. Cabvision, we don't do that. You know, it's more of a modular, you know, buy it, you know, we will supply it. We've got different, we're kind of almost like a bit like the car phone warehouse for payment in that sense, right? So we've got a variety of different models, and we don't really care whether or not our customer buys the system or wants it to be on a contract with us. That's really not a problem. What we did do, though, is we looked at Cabvision as a business, which is, as I said, regulated to death. I mean, I can't emphasise that enough. Right, okay. The regulatory hurdles are just mind-blowing and only getting worse. And we did not want to merge a new business into a regulated business. So I've heard you speak about this many a time. You know, the taxi apps, they're not regulated, they're a law into themselves, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so we can take a business that is not regulated, and I've got really heavy regulated businesses here. Why would I put them together? Yeah. Because all of a sudden I've got the regulatory burden on a taxi app that I've got zero burden on. Yeah. And right now, as a payment platform, we don't do any reporting to the HMRC. It's not a requirement. You know, I am not feeding anyone work. Yeah. What we're doing is we're providing you with services. So you buy services from me. I've got no obligation to tell anyone that you're my customer currently. And therefore, when you start distributing work, you're crossing over, in my view, and that obligation to report is not something that we're particularly keen on doing right now. We will have to do that through Black Cab, no question.
Yeah.
Like, that's the law. But we don't have to do it through Cabvision, and I don't want any Cabvision customer who's not interested in apps. A lot of people just say, I'm not interested in it. I use the payment because that supplements what I do, which is drive around and look for hands. No problem. You do what you want. So that is why we set up as to, well, Unify was a standalone company, and why we won't integrate Black Cab into the Cabvision app.
Right. I mean, that's really interesting. And like you said, it's multifaceted. And we could talk all day on that. But I do want to move on to fees, because I'm aware of time as well.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to fees. It's widely regarded that there are 4 aspects to our unique selling proposition. That is the knowledge, which is the first, applying for hire, the vehicle we drive, and the meter. And it could be argued that the meter is intrinsic to the vehicle we drive. You did talk about the metered fare. So do you plan for the cost to the customer to be meter based, or at any point will you set up a kind of arbitrary fare system independent of the meter sometimes or all of the time?
No, I mean, Mickey's golden rules were, the meter is sacrosanct, right?
Yeah.
There's no compromise on the meter, which is fine because that wasn't a hard sell to me.
Yeah.
And
There is one aspect of that, just quickly, in that Unify allowed you to engage the meter at the point of acceptance. Is that something you might do? I mean, that aligns somewhat with the regulations, doesn't it?
It does align, and we've been if you go to the website and you look at the FAQs under the drivers and whatever, you will see that we have mentioned that. We do not want the meter to be engaged at acceptance. We accept the fact that's the law. Yeah. And if a driver does that, then fine. And if the customer doesn't complain about it, we're not overly bothered at this stage. But we are, in the second and third iterations, about to introduce a form of cancellation fee, where if the driver has run for a job, that I'm not saying that it's a scrub, but it will work along the ways of a scrub. So what we're saying to the driver is look, you're conceding the point of being able to put the meter on, but if you do some running, you'll get paid for that time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the quid pro quo in that. So
as far as fees go, what fees will the driver shoulder, and what fees will the passengers shoulder?
So we've set this up effectively that there will be no fee to the driver, commission based from the meter. It's another thing that we're making a commitment to. We're leaving some headroom in there should we be successful in what we're doing, and we do decide that we're going to go out after corporate work. I mean, corporate work comes with different costs, and I'm not sure we'll ever go down that route. However, we don't want to restrict ourselves from going down that route. So what we're saying is the hand on the street, the bread and butter retail work on whatever, that will be commission free.
And this sounds like a bit of a remedial question, and I pretty much know the answer, but will it be open to all taxi drivers and not just Cabvision customers?
Yeah, no, it's open to all. I mean, I'll caveat that by saying, if you've got an analog phone, it's not open to you. But it
means me.
but if you are someone that has got a Android or iPhone that's 6 years old or newer, you'll be able to download the app and make yourself available for work.
Now, you did mention, about taxi apps not being regulated. Are there any other regulatory hurdles? And what about competition? How are you addressing that?
Well, regulatory hurdles just in terms of the Companies Act and setting things up and whatnot. And as I said, we're making the structure a little bit more complicated because we want to offer the trade groups the restricted share class that we might get on to talk about if there's time. But what we've decided is that the only way really to win over the driver's scepticism. Certainly people who are not our customer already. So I think we have some skeptics who are our customers. What's their overriding objective? And we've got some that obviously like us a lot, and we're very grateful for that. But there's nothing like dealing in certainty. Sean, I'll never sell you out, mate. Let's go and have a beer. So we're all good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, thanks, Lee. And and then the next thing you read another press release saying we've done X, Y, Z, right? You're not going to hear that here because the way that we're trying to structure it is that for the big decisions that would concern drivers, there would be a vote of the 3 trade orgs and the two unions.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's quite explicit, isn't it? Something that nobody else is doing, something that you plan to do.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know this from the conversations we had with Taxi App 4 years ago, that I harboured this viewpoint, and nothing's really changed. Quite rightly, the driver is very scared about the future, right? You align yourself with the wrong person. How much time have we got left to turn this around and whatever? We can't afford to make any mistakes. I feel that very much about Cabvision and our whole foray in the taxi marketplace. Any mistakes from here are fatal. We'll never get this money back, right? So we have to be very diligent in our approach. But in relation to the driver, in my mind, the driver's primary concern is, you're going to sell me out, right? More so than the money.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to sell me out.
More importantly, if drivers feel they're putting all their eggs in one basket, so you're the payment provider, you supply meters, and now you're operating an app.
Yeah, and they might rent a vehicle from us as well. They might get legal cover from us, from whatever. I mean, we're trying to make greater offerings to the trade, where that you can kind of bundle things together and you can make savings, right? So we're doing a lot for nothing. But if I sell you 5 services and I make money from 3, that's okay. The problem is, if I only sell you 3, I might not be making money from any of them. So the more that we do, we can hopefully be more competitive. But again, should we go under, should we sell ourselves out, the driver goes, I get everything from Cabvision, right? And now they're gone, and that's dangerous. And look, we're not about to go anywhere. We're established in this marketplace, and we're committed to this marketplace. And through the 5 years of UTAG and whatever, and people have seen the efforts that I've made on a personal basis, to try and explain to the market in kind of layman terms, this is where we're at, this is why Sefton's expensive, this is why we need to get involved in the Part 8 and whatnot. And this is all technical, but I mean, going back to the point that you raised, what's the driver? If they align themselves to us, why should they align themselves to us? And we're saying that we will put any big decisions in front of the restricted shareholders, right? And that decision would be, we've had an approach, we're going to sell the business. On the one hand, let's say that approach comes from GET, and we say the articles don't allow us to deal with anyone who's got a private hire license or is dealing with it. However, LEVC want to buy us. Well, we're old and tired now, and LEVC currently are taxi only, so why shouldn't we sell to LEVC if they are going to stick to the criteria that we've set in the golden rules? And we've put those on the website, so if people wanted to look at that and go to the section that says veto rights, there's kind of like a pop-up there, and we set out the things that we plan to go to the trade groups in relation to. However, the trade groups may decline to get involved because they might say, well, that feels like a bit of an endorsement of you, and I don't want to endorse you and whatever. And of course, that's between them and their membership. So I can't say I'll ask someone to vote if they don't want to vote. But what we're saying is that is on the table now. And we hope that all 5 of them will take it up. So I think, again, that safeguards the driver, that we call it the super majority. So they need to get 3 out of 5 people agree for us to make a change. Right now, we can't agree if it's day or night. So that should be pretty tricky if this is controversial.
But it's good to know there's some kind of oversight.
Well, I just think it's a gift that we can give. So, people are saying, well, I need comfort. And back in the day when people are saying, oh, I'm worried about my money at Cabvision, I don't know you, blah, 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 blah. And then we started paying 6 days a week. And then during COVID, we pay 7 days a week. And it's like, listen, if we don't pay you for 24 hours, we've probably got a problem. However, we pay 365 days a year. If there's going to be an issue with Barclays, who do our settlement, and they're good Barclays. Oh, there's always a problem with Barclays. What, like 6-8 times a year? 365 days, and they're down like 8 days while they're doing maintenance. I mean, it's an unbelievable service when you think about it like that, right? Because most people shut their shop up on a Friday and don't think about it till the Monday.
Yeah,
we're the McDonald's drive-through, right? We're open 24/7. And our customers choose to work whatever hours they want. And, we already have a great understanding of the drivers' work profiles. So we're not starting from scratch, and we're not one of these people saying, "Oh, give us a chance, give us a chance." Everyone knows us already. The app, we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
We're 12 years behind others. They've got obviously a substantial customer base. There's new people trying to take that customer base from, you've got bigger fish trying to eat bigger fish, trying to eat bigger fish. I mean, it is the ocean sort of world, or laws of the jungle, whatever you want to call it. But we can only be successful with the support of the driver.
Yeah.
And if we can't persuade the driver to give us a go and to get on board, and we've put these safeguardings in and no one else has, and we're taxi only, and we've been deliberately taxi only. I should really be saying black cab only, shouldn't I? I'm missing an opportunity.
Perhaps.
We're only black cab. We're black cab only. We have no desire to work with private hire. We're putting into the articles to say we can't work with private hire. There's not really much more I can do other than drive your cab for you and then pay you.
One of the biggest aspects that I was drawn to Unify is that he committed the profits to the various taxi charities. I think there was the Taxi Charity for Military Veterans, the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children, the Disney Trip, and the Albany Charity.
Yes.
Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's already on the website under community, so people can go there and they can read about what our commitment is. I don't think it's correct to say that all of the profits were committed to the charities. What it said is that there will be charitable donations. And we've set ourselves up on that basis. So even though that there is not there's no revenues going into the company, and there's no profitability going into the company, we're funding it so that we've got enough money to make charitable contributions from the get-go. And we've set up a little charities committee, because I think that's important that's independent, and there's better people than me that should be deciding on how the money should be spent. And we've actually chosen 3 women, which is probably a first, because I don't think any committee's ever had an all-female committee, which we celebrate in the diversity in that regard. So yeah, I mean, Heather, Claire, and Angela. They're now.
Well, there's no 3 better people.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're all great. They all happen to be our customer. That also helps. Although, but I mean, the reality is we didn't choose them based off of, they're Cabvision customers. We've chosen them based off the fact that we believe they're the best people for the job.
Yeah.
And they happen to be women, and it's kind of like, well, we're celebrating that, So we haven't gone out there and said that we want a male, we want a female, we want someone from somewhere else. We just looked at it and said, what people have got integrity beyond reproach. And I think that you can just pick any one of those 3 and, say, give me a name, those 3 would always come up. And that's important for us.
Right. I've got some quick fire questions from cab drivers because we're running out of time. But if you could, there might be some overlap. I'm not going to ask them all, but there might be some overlap, which you might need to reiterate. Let me just look. Okay, the first one is from Benidorm Dave. Benidorm Dave, hello, nice to hear from you.
Another one of our customers.
Okay, good. Well, Benidorm Dave, we need to bring back the Mayfair mob, don't we? It's needed more than ever. And I will say, anybody who's not heard of the Mayfair mob, then you don't know you were born. So that's Benidorm Dave. But he wants to know, when will it go live, and when will it change to blackcab.com? Kind of like Doctor Who. the way he regenerates into from one person to another. When will Unify regenerate into blackcab.com?
It will be August. I'm not given a date in August, but it will be in August.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go, Dave. Good to hear from you. And Gary, and there is some overlap here, but I like the way he phrases it. So he says that you want to create a one-stop shop for the cab trade with the meter and now the app. Does he see this as a modern version of the radio circuits? Now, you're showing your age there, aren't you? A modern day version of the radio circuits without driver input, but you've basically covered that. Maybe you could just answer that question directly.
I'm not sure about one-stop shop. I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, we're offering a number of different verticals, but you know, we don't sell vehicles, we don't service vehicles, we're not involved in insurance. So I mean, to be a true one-stop shop, I mean, you'd probably have to get involved in all of those things. I don't have a lot of desire to be involved in those things, but what we do think is that if things become sort of mandatory, your CCTV, your meter, your payment system, obviously drivers are always interested in the dispatch side of things, then yeah, I'd like to be the one-stop shop, so I'll get everything from Cabvision. Yeah. I think also from a technical point of view, and this is, you know, something that I know is something that Taxi World think, it's all your equipment. So if anything goes wrong, it is on you, and you don't expect anyone else to be doing the tampering, because we have certain things that touch the meter, and then other people's they go and get the meter changed, they come back and the driver's payment system doesn't work. But it's something that's been disconnected, and if that's all you shouldn't be making those mistakes. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because someone might have had a late night and forgot to do something, but that's what I would say is a one-stop shop for us.
Yeah. Terry TG. I'll give a shout out to Terry because he's a fantastic photographer, and he did the photographs for the London Taxi PR billboard campaign, the knowledge, I did it, you could too. So he's a fantastic photographer, so check him out. But he asks the thorny question of suburban drivers picking up in town, and it is a bit of a thorny question.
It is. I mean, you know, and obviously we're going to have to address that. My view would be there's 100,000 PH drivers picking up in town at the moment. It's more to worry about. But as I said, we're committed to working within the TfL regulations, and we're going to have to address that. I mean, it's not addressed enough currently within the current offering, and there's more, dare I say, important things for us to deliver. However, we are very alive to the apartheid of green and yellow, and we don't want to do anything controversial.
I mean, what's interesting about that, back in the days when we set up Taxi App, I mean, I was very fervent about there being geofencing, but I've since revisited that, and I thought in the same way that there's an onus on suburban drivers not to pick up outside their sector, the same personal responsibility should apply to them on the app, in a sense. So I'm a great one for personal responsibility. So I don't necessarily think that it's the app's responsibility to geofence. It's the driver's responsibility to operate per their license.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've had these conversations. So let's say you're a yellow badge. We're here just on the highway. You're out of sector. You're driving through. A job comes up. Because you're a yellow badge, there may well be something that pops up and just says, like, this job's available to you. Confirm you're in the sector. And if the guy says that, then it's self-responsibility. So, you know, we've been having lots of conversations internally, and it is important, but does it fall into sort of like super priority for us right now? It doesn't. But will we allow free-for-all? No, we won't.
Yeah, right. Talking of contentious, Pimlico Lee, hello Pimlico Lee. He seems to think, well, this is more opinionated.
He's definitely not our customer.
Well, he's more opinionated than just offering a question. But he seems to think that this is about splitting the trade.
Oh, I'm not quite sure how he's concluded that, you know, this is splitting the trade. I mean, what have we got? There's 11 payment suppliers as an example, and maybe 4 do anything. God knows how many service agents there are, There's a number of apps. Unify is actually in the trade already, and it goes to the point where I'm saying, you know, I think Keir Starmer was trying to make this point on the other day, 1 in, 1 out on the boats, and you know, we didn't want to.
It's been bipartisan because it went from Boris Johnson to Keir Starmer. So that's...
Yeah. I say I'm apolitical. You know, I'm okay with these things, but yeah, I'm just making the point. You know, the conversation with Macron the other day was basically, we'll take one person, you take one person back. Yeah. And as I said, you know, we had the conversations with Taxi App because we felt the same thing. We don't need any more dilution. We had the conversation with Unify, which is completed. I'm not sure if Taxi World done similar things and whatever, but you know, Taxi World launched the Jump app. That's a new offering, and I'm not sure what Lee's views are on that. You know, if it should be, well, we only want get them free now. We don't want any further dilution, but you're going to get dilution, and a lot of it you can't stop. You know, what's stop? You know, if Free Now gets rebranded to Lyft, that'll be another lot of noise, and it will come with, you know, a whole other set of working practices.
He also goes on to say that he didn't think the Unify app, the infrastructure, structurally, it wasn't a very good app. What are you doing to address that? Yeah,
look, I mean, we want to protect the Black Cab brand, and Unify has needed a rewriting in a number of areas for a number of different reasons. And he's not wrong in that sense. You know, it's a micro business, and I've tried to use it myself on certain times, and I haven't been able to use it successfully. And on other times I've used it successfully, and then that's puzzled me as to why I failed on other times. So we've had to, you know, work with the current developers to understand why there seemingly is conflict. And yeah, if a driver says I've had a bad experience, or a passenger says they've had a bad experience, I wouldn't say that they were telling tall stories there. But there are good experiences as well. But we don't want to put the Black Cab name on it until we're confident that there's going to be good experiences.
Good. And another question, how are you spreading the word about blackcab.com and, well, to both drivers and passengers?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've got a tailored marketing campaign of how we intend to launch this. I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it now. From a driver's point of view, of course, we need driver buy-in, and the best advocate that you can have for anything is the driver upselling you. And of course, we would then go back and say, yeah, well, they sold the work before, and then everyone's asking them to do the same things. It's the most obvious thing to do. Like when you're in the back of a taxi, the payment system, as an example, could say blackcab.com. The tip seats can say blackcab.com. The driver can dish out receipts saying blackcab.com, or have you downloaded the app, and this, that, and the other. You've got 15 minutes of engagement with someone who is maybe buying just a random ad hoc service, or may well be a regular user. And the conversation might well be, do you use an app? Yeah, I use such and such an app. I'm sick to death of the surcharges, the tech fees, you know, whatever they're calling it this week and whatever. And the driver says, download this, it's commission free for me, and there's no charge for you currently. And it's committed to working in the TfL structure. So everything that you get here with us, without a middleman, you're going to get if you download the app. So if you're finishing your last drink, etc., get on with it. But you need to support that with a consumer campaign. And that's where the challenge comes. So we've started to have some conversations with London Taxi PR about joint campaigns in that regard, because we think that, you know, Andy's trying to promote the Black Cab trade.
Yeah. And there is some reach there. So.
Of course there is, and they're also doing good work with very limited budgets. But you know, we've got a couple of tricks up our sleeve in that regard. And we will have the consumer campaign, but we've got to be minded of the money that we invest in that, because there's no guaranteed return. So to some extent, I'd rather be spending the money on the technology to make the app seamless and people looking at it as a great product, because your product's going to have to stand on its laurels. Yeah. So you go and spend a lot of money and not be quite ready, you know, you're going to be on the back foot.
I mean, it's a bit of a shame, because I think we've just got momentum going, and I could talk all day with you about this and other things, I've got to say. And I really hope it works. I'd love to see it work. In fairness, I'd like to see Jump work as well. It would be great if all the work migrated from the corporate hailing apps over to taxi-led business apps, that would be absolutely great. But in closing, what is the biggest thing you want drivers to take away from this today?
In closing, look, I hope that they think that, you know, we've got the trade's best interests at heart. I hope a lot of them are thinking this guy gets it because we don't like the direction of travel. And I just hope that they will say, like, we'll give them a go. I don't think that's a hard thing from our own customers.
Yeah.
Because I think that we win hearts and minds of our own customers. Mickey signed up thousands of drivers. He done an unbelievable job of signing up drivers.
Yeah.
He just obviously wasn't able to deliver the amount of work that they would like, for all the reasons that we've discussed and more that we haven't. But there is a pretty big customer base there, and we will start engaging with that. They might feel a little bit sidetracked at the moment, that we haven't sort of, thanks very much, you've signed up in the past, we're great for the support. That's all coming. But we want to be in a position where we say to them, here's the link, download the link, this is the new product, you've seen the old product, this is the new product. They immediately see an uplift and they become re-enthused to support the product. So the takeaways is just give us a chance, really.
All right, well, that's brilliant. I will give a plug for Cabvision because I'm on the Cabvision system. It's reliable, it's really good, they pay the next day. And it's very favourable fees. So there you go. If you're thinking about you want a payment terminal supplier, then maybe go to Cabvision. Lee, it would be great to meet up again in about 6 months' time, maybe to see the progress, see what's happening and how it's moving forward. I hope it moves forward. And it would be great as well if we could get together more informally, maybe to talk about cab trade issues. That would be really good as well. If you're up for that, this has been quite a structured Q&A.
Yeah.
And I will say as well, there on the website there are frequently asked questions which cover a lot of the housekeeping, doesn't it? So you can refer to that. So if one of your questions didn't get asked, it might be because it's on the frequently asked questions. So all in all, well, what I will do is make sure to spell your name right in the future.
Thank you, Phil.
All right, Lee.
Thank
you very much.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Cheers.